So a while ago, we looked at the example of lighthouse. Lighthouse, which required full-time job for 3 families, and it does require a house along with the light tower. But modern lighthouse is not ceremonial like that. It's just one light pole, and that does all the job, and nobody's around. And then if you look at carefully, what triggered that a vast innovation, which we don't even pay attention to anymore. But I'm an electrical engineering guy, and I look at, and to my delight, all invention of electricity made it happen. And I like to look at a abacus as an example. There are numerous examples like this, but this is the one good example that I could show you. Abacus. What is abacus? I guess some of you may know what that is. It's a calculator. The record shows that as early as 12th century, there was a calculator like this. What is a calculator? It is not like the calculator we have nowadays when you push button and the answer comes out. You need some work here. And if you look at, usually it has the upper bar, above the bar, 2 beads here, and the bottom 5 beads. And the upper bar beads actually carries 5 value, and the lower carries 1 value. And then if you, for example, the far right column, 1 is down and the 3 is up. So 5 and 3, and then signifies 8. And if you look at the very bottom, the value is written there. How about the second from the far right? There, nothing is lowered on the upper bar, and nothing is raised on the lower, so it's a 0. The third from the far right, nothing is lowered on the 5 beads section, but 4 are up, so it's a 4. So if you move the beads like that, you can actually express the number. It's a device. Actually, if you look at why they had to invent like that, and I have my theory. Good old days, they did not have any pencil, convenient or paper. Nowadays, pencil and paper is so plentiful that you use that all the time, and then you throw it away, or you keep it for archiving. I guess good old days, they did not have such means, and if they have to calculate something, they have to intermediate result has to be stored away somewhere, and this is a very, very easy way to do it. So you enter one number, and most significant digit on the left and the far right going down, and the least significant thing, and the first column for far right as shown here. And then once you enter this, you can add number by number, starting from the least significant column and going up. You can imagine how to do it. In a video it is difficult for me to show, but you can imagine. This has been used for generations, for centuries, and nothing much has happened. But if you look at record, well, something started happening close to 20th century. And then if you look at the most modern abacus, obviously they eliminated the bead on the above bar and reduced the 5 beads to 4. And this makes sense, because if you look at, you don't really need any more than that, because if it goes to over 10 on one column or over 9, you have to the next highest value, and then you raise that and carry it over to them. And if you do that, actually you can simplify greatly by eliminating 1 bead above and eliminate 1 bead on the bottom, and that's very, very easy to do. And there's around 1900 you'd see this, and then I guess in some very specialty house you can maybe still buy some replica of abacus. However, once people learn the feeling of entrepreneurship, other people look at, well, there are better ways to do it mechanically, and I can memorize by location of a certain rotating wheel or shifting columns or something, and this is one invention that is called adiator, and this part shows how to add, and there's a sphere on the right, and then you use that sphere to latch onto different number, and then you shift up and down that many digits as much you need add, and when you go over 10 and that place, it carries over to the next one automatically, mechanically. So you can use this device, and it's so-called a portable calculator, because this can fit into someone's top pocket. Of course, if you turn around, the other side is designed for subtraction. And then this became rather quickly popular, and then you don't have to learn how to use abacus. Good old days, abacus, there were abacus competition and all that, even the time when I was going elementary school. But this one doesn't require such kind of thing, which is natural for people to know. But when someone invented like that, quickly someone else caught an idea and they said, well, I can do a lot better, and came out something like this. Actually, if you look at inside, this is very similar to the adiator and subtractor you saw, just that here, instead of using sphere, you push a button, and it's a more human-friendly push button, and that triggers inside wheel to turn that many digits up and down instead of going linear way. Now it turns to save space. And not only that, but also it had a small printer on the top, and there was designed especially for store, where if someone buys something, you add all that and give the record of it as a receipt. And that design has been used for a long time. And the more improved version is that there's a drawer, cash drawer on the bottom, and when you push it toggle, it opens up, and then you put the change, you take out change or put the money in, and the cash register. But when people look at that, somebody else will come and say, well, I can do a lot better, and then this has been used up until around 1970. I remember using that to check my thesis, and I had to show down to a 10 decimal point to show that my equation works. And so there are some known conditions, special conditions, that I had to prove that that actually works. And the Illinois Institute of Technology that I worked, there's only one of this. It's about $2,000, and I had to check this in midnight to do that alone. It takes about 10 minutes to calculate 10 by 10 multiplication or like that, and it was a very tedious kind of thing. But this was a wonderful invention, and I still feel that this is a marvel, because a mechanical marvel. Inside is all done mechanically, and once this is broken, I don't know how anybody will fix. But this will be quickly replaced with this. It's about $2,000 as electronic, no moving parts. And by the way, the CPU, Central Processing Unit, is so bulky it had to stay underneath the table, and it has a magnetic core, and it can memorize 10-digit number, 20 of them. So you can bring them out, and an intermediate result can be stored. And it was a Wang Laboratories invention. And when I graduated from graduate program and went into Bell Laboratories, only those selected few, that's the PhD graduates, were allowed to have this. And then for a while I was very popular because people are lining up to use that in my room. However, my joy was only short, but because quickly HP came out. This is only $400. You don't have to have those bulky things underneath your desk, and then this is battery operated. This has a trigonometric function, hyperbolic functions, and all other stuff like that, and not better powerful. Well, this is, and then of course now you know what happened. And about a electronic calculator, originally it came out around $70. Now it's less than $10, right? Well, what caused all this happening? And then if you look carefully, first, electricity made it happen. Electricity, the use of it using chips and logic circuits, instead of using calculator, mechanical calculator, now you can do electronics. But if you go back and backtrack, this is a totally manual operation, and here you push a button, and if you look at here, there's a lever there. You crank that, and then that makes the wheel move and then even print out. But if you do that for hundreds and at a time, your arm will be very, very tired. So they invented this automatically calculating. But if you look at it, needs power, and that's the electric motor is doing the job. So electricity eventually made this advance, but then quickly eliminating all the moving parts, and now electronically you do. If you look around, a lot of things which used to be done electrically or mechanically, such as a thermostat or home kind of things, are all done now electronically. One good example is your wristwatch. All different wheels and moving parts, it's a mechanical marvel, are all eliminated and unceremoniously chip, and it does a more accurate job. Invention of electricity touched everything in our lives. What I like to talk about here is that for each of the steps you saw, here we identified 7, 8, 9 different steps, and there are some more there. What had happened between those steps? For example, this Wang laboratory, is Wang invent this? No, HP did. What happened to Wang? That's a classical example of big company taking too long to get innovation because they are dominating the market. Well, HP came out with this 400 calculator. Who came out with $70 and now $20 calculator? It's a Texas Instrument. How come all different companies are coming out? That is what I'm talking about. Entrepreneurs make it faster to get into the use of new technology, because existing companies who are enjoying the existing technology, they have less incentive to change. Well, one area where entrepreneurship is applied is the facilitating new technology. And then if you look at modern society, if you look at electronics and other things, the lifetime is getting shorter and shorter of a particular technology, and vinyl recording that has been used for many decades have been replaced by tape, and audio tape enjoyed several decades, but then it was replaced by CD, which lasts less than 2 decades, and then replaced by solid state MP3, and that's being replaced quickly because memory is being replaced. So each time when this fast evolution of different products, all you are looking at what's happening behind is that's a job of entrepreneurs. And then again, I started out with the definition of entrepreneurship, the word, French word, undertaker. They undertake the job silently behind, and the beneficiary are the society and people. Well, in order to happen this, the behind is made possible by venture financing. There are investors who wanted to be rich by investing their money rather than leaving it idle, and furnish those entrepreneurs who have a lot of ideas but not much money. And such kind of a trade also encourages the existing companies, because they are worried that they may be replaced by someday with entrepreneuring new companies. So they are trying to introduce that entrepreneurship spirit, and that is called intrapreneurship. It's a man-made word, and you try to apply the same kind of a small company spirit of startup business and apply in the big company, and they break up the organization into many different small divisions or something like that to introduce that. So entrepreneurial strategies, especially the startup companies, they actually share the same trait as other very, very desirable trait that the existing company needs. It's like a problem solving and management and leadership. A lot of leadership courses end up with unknowingly teaching the trait of entrepreneurship. If we recognize the common denominator, you might as well just teach entrepreneurship and cover whole thing instead of covering only leadership aspect of it. Well, I'd like to conclude my talk with several things. It comes to my mind. Can you recognize what this? This is the remote antenna site of a cellular phone. And in order to cover different areas, you see many of these things spreading all the serving area. And if you look at, I'm an electronic guy, and then I know how complex that is. It's tens of thousands of dollars equipment sitting there, and like this. And then if you look at carefully, and then I took a closer picture of where the crucial equipments are located. This is really actually eye level. I'm not that tall guy, but without any even that I can reach this. And if I have a bad mind, I could just steal all this. And good old days in Korea, when Korea was very poor, this would not have lost like this, because the people are hungry and they are trying to even steal live electric wire, risking their lives. But now you walk around and nobody touches it because they don't need to. I feel always be thankful that we came so far. But if I look behind, who caused all this? Well, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is not knowledge. Entrepreneurship is mindset. And you can not get the mindset by just learning knowledge. Learning knowledge, it takes only about 5 minutes. But changing it would require experience and your effort. And I want all the listeners have that mindset change. Well, we had a program called Global Entrepreneurship Training, and now we had 13 times for over 5 years, 6 years actually. It started 2008, and this is the second time that we are having on that. That usually we have twice a year, and this was held in Kenya, and 85 students changed to entrepreneurs after 1 week intensive session. And if you look at a few slides there, has a classroom discussion, group discussion, presentation of their business ideas, and culture night in the middle. And then in Africa in particular, various tribes, sometimes they're in conflict, but a lot of times they have their rich culture which they can turn into a product for gainful business if they know how. And this culture night was to encourage such kind of thing. And if you look at all different activities, we have a marvelous experience of doing this, and I'd like to introduce that to you. Well, entrepreneurship. A lot of people say that entrepreneurship has a definition, and not many people even know what broad definition is. And also a lot of people say that, well, developing countries need a fishing rod, not fish. They have to be taught how to catch a fish. But that's a semantic, and not many people talk about what the fish is and fishing rod is. But I found out what fishing rod is. That's an entrepreneurship skill. That's why we recorded this lecture, to help you. Well, I believe that entrepreneurship can give the people who need help, the very hope that they need. Entrepreneurship is the way that people can have the feeling and hope that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you very much for your attention. I like to show you a small video clip. Was recorded in one of those sessions. We created more than 1,600 graduates for those years. They are all entrepreneurs going out and contributing for their society as a government worker, professors, certainly as a businessman, or as an everyday citizen, as a worker for working for someone else. They all have entrepreneurial way of doing their own things. Again, thank you very much for your attention.